Given all the ways in which President Trump isn't like his predecessors, it's no surprise that his White House press briefings have been different, too. But after this week, it might be time to ask whether there's any point to the White House briefings at all. Adam Riley has more.
On Thursday, White House spokeswoman Sarah Huckabee Sanders briefed reporters on health care.
I don't think we're as focused on the timeline as we are on the final product.
But you couldn't watch it because cameras weren't allowed. They were barred from Monday's briefing, too, rankling CNN's Jim Acosta.
My guess is because they want their evasive answers not saved for posterity.
But Press Secretary Sean Spicer has another explanation. He says too many reporters want to become YouTube stars and ask some snarky question that's been asked 8 times, which might be Spicer's take on moments like this.
I understand. Okay, but you know what? You're asking me a question, and I'm going to answer it, which is the president. I'm sorry. Please stop shaking your head again.
Either way, the White House Correspondents Association isn't pleased. It says untelevised Q&As are no substitute for the open back and forth between reporters and administration officials that regular televised briefings allow. But Spicer says cameras aren't essential.
We're here really early in the morning and really late at night, available to all of your questions, whether it's email or in person.
All of which raises a question.
Why are we even having these briefings or these gaggles in the first place?
Given Trump's MO, it's a question Spicer might be asking, too.
His comments and his tweets speak for themselves.
Indeed, they do.
Well, I think Jim Acosta is onto something at CNN. He's actually proposing that maybe the mainstream media get together and decide how to approach this, because this piecemeal drip, 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 how are we going to work it one day and it changes all the next. And then you got this infighting right inside the White House. Steve Bannon tweeted out that the reason that the press conferences aren't televised these days is because Sean Spicer has gotten too fat. Now, that's internal business. Can you imagine saying that about one of your colleagues? This is just nuttiness.
Bannon may have thought it was okay because he's a big guy himself, so we figured Spicer wouldn't take any offense. Yeah. I don't know. I actually think there's a little bit to what Sean Spicer's saying here. I do think that the White House briefing has changed a lot over the years because of the presence of TV cameras. It only goes back to Mike McCurry, who was Bill Clinton's press secretary, and he has said he regrets it. I have a quote from him here. Yeah, he says, "The daily briefing has become less than helpful, and I bear responsibility for that because I let it become a televised event. It should not be." And that's Mike McCurry, who started this.
Well, they started doing this double, the double box with the CNN's its reporters on the air, and then they love it when they get into a back and forth. So there is some truth to it.
Yeah, no, I really think it is. And, I think that they ought to do some on camera, some off camera, which is kind of what they're doing, and I don't think it's that big a deal.
It's a big deal, but it might be, I don't know. When Sean Spicer says something that's contradicted hours later by Donald Trump, we see disarray, and so that's a reason why
to have it for posterity. Yeah.
Well, but it's also a reason why they may not want to have it. Just when I worked in Washington, there were a whole army of people that would wake up every morning and create a binder based on the news of the day and figure out what are the questions the reporters are going to ask, what's our response. It would be an interagency thing. Everybody, like 20, 30 people would probably be coordinating these answers. And now they're clearly not doing that. And so it's a very different administration, and we've never seen something like this before.
Under a conventional administration, like Farah is saying, there's actually something useful to the briefings in that it imposes a certain amount of discipline upon the administration because they know people are going to get asked questions and want straight answers to them. And it also helps the reporters understand what the government is doing. This is an unusual administration. They don't seem terribly interested in policy. The things that Sean Spicer says in those briefings may or may not have any relationship to what the president actually thinks about a given subject. So the only news value in them at this point is the disarray that Farah describes.
So I would have to say that I'm half and half on this, where I don't think that they have to be a million briefings. I agree with that, and there can certainly be some change. But to say that Mike McCurry talking about I regret that I did this, like saying I'm sorry we have audio and video on the web.
Exactly.
Really? Really? We're here now.
Exactly.
This is where we are. You can't just dismiss that. That doesn't make any sense whatsoever. That is the nature of the beast. Most people get their news and information from TV. And listen, if they could get some response of the kind that Farah is talking about, I'm sure a lot of it wouldn't end up on the air. What ends up on the air is because reporters now being thought of as the enemy are going to have to explain, no, he really didn't answer it. What do you mean he didn't answer it? Let me show you, that he really didn't answer the question, even the most basic one. So I think they need to push hard against this. This is ridiculous. We're not, in 19th century, wherever. This is the medium by which we use it. You can, if you want to make some adjustments, I don't have a problem. We were talking about in the green room. You're having other reporters come in. If you want to change some of that, I'm all with it.
Yeah.
But this is important.
Can't go on like this, can it?
It can go on like this, but that's to our detriment, I think.